As creators, we are constantly needing to come up with new content, and content creation can be super overwhelming. It can feel really daunting at times. Maybe you have a podcast with weekly episodes, or you write a blog, or maybe you go live on social media and you repurpose that content. But how do you make sure that you come up with enough new content, and not just any content? We want good content because this is how you grow your email list and how you create super fans. It's with really good content. It can't be mediocre, right? You have to stand out from everyone else. And the best way to get great content is to make sure that you are inspiring creativity, that you're living in these creative moments so you can create great content. And so this is what we're going to talk about today, how to inspire creativity so that we have an endless flow of content to build an engaging email list and build a community of superfans. Hey friend, welcome to the Badass is the New Black podcast, where our motto is done is better than perfect. I'm Krissy Chin, here on a mission to help you take your knowledge and turn it into a profit. I'm an expert in course creation and membership offers that create reoccurring revenue so you can work less and enjoy and earn a whole lot more. Most importantly, I'm a laid-back wife, mom, a friend who started as a peds nurse, turned network marketer, and now a serial entrepreneur. This podcast is for ambitious people with an idea, a vision, but no idea how to get there. On this podcast, I'll give actionable steps to keep you moving forward while you learn new business strategies, better systems and process, marketing, sales, all the things that you need to build and scale a blissful business that keeps your pocketbook growing. Grab a beverage, open up your notes app, and let's get to it. A lot of people who are at this stage where they are being really intentional about content creation also find themselves being strapped for time. You've committed to creating something maybe once a week, and this is someone who's likely in the launch or the automation stages in their business. Now, we talk about these stages a lot in the Scale to Six coaching community, but when you realize these stages, or you're in one of these stages, you really start realizing how helpful it would be to automate more of the things that you're doing, or how helpful it would be to hire someone to take some of those simple tasks that you're doing that are time consuming and have someone else do them for you so they can be taken off of your plate. So if that's you, but you aren't really sure maybe what to automate or what you could have someone do for you, then I have a really great new resource for you. 50 things to automate or outsource in your business. Just go to thekrissychin.com/automate and you will get that download straight to your email. It's super helpful. It'll be sure to help you win back some of your time, which I know is one of your goals. All right, so let's get to today's episode. I want to talk about inspiring creativity. There are many, many reasons why this is super important. Creativity can help give you new ideas for maybe your free content, or it can give you new ideas for your paid content. It can help you overcome roadblocks when you get into your creative space. And we know as entrepreneurs, we hit roadblocks all the time. So it's super important to be able to move through those roadblocks quickly, and your creative space will allow you to do that. I remember as a kid when we would build forts, and all the neighborhood kids, we kind of lived in a unique neighborhood where we had lots of kids our own age, and they had these like little mini foresty area behind our houses, and we would go back there and we would build these forts. And I always just remember going for it, or I guess I don't remember ever standing there thinking, gosh, we're going to try and start to build this, but we're going to come up with a lot of roadblocks. Like, how are we going to make the roof on it? Like, no, we just had an idea and we tried to execute. And if a problem came up, then we tried something else. We got into our creative brain. And I also witnessed this often with my kids as well. When they're building forts, when they're doing anything, they get this idea in their head and they just go for it, right? But as we age and we get older, that creativity is lost a little bit, or a lot. We gain more responsibility. We're taught to be less creative. And now years later, you are an entrepreneur and you have to be creative. So you have to re-tap into your creativity often so that you can overcome this stuckness or, just not being creative. So lots of people get writer's block. Lots of people just kind of sit there not really knowing what to do. So let's dive into these 3 helpful ways to re-spark that creativity so that you can be more productive in your business and you can come up with more content, new content, you can overcome roadblocks quicker, and all of the good stuff that you need to run a thriving business, working less and enjoying and earning a whole lot more. Oftentimes, we're so busy in life with hustling kids around, taking appointments, getting the little details completed in our projects that our minds can't quiet down and think of new creative ideas. And for me, the places that I've come up with brilliant ideas, at least I think they're brilliant, are when I'm taking a shower or when I'm driving or when I'm laying in bed before I fall asleep, when I'm cleaning the house. It's all of these times where I'm in my own space with the world outside at a distance, and my mind is just able to be quiet. And then my mind starts to wander and it goes down these little rabbit holes of ideas that lead to other ideas. So knowing this, that I come to these creative spaces in these different times, I try and be really intentional about giving myself time to be in these moments, to check out from what's going on and just be in this space. So planning to take a shower and giving myself plenty of time to do my hair and my makeup, because half of the time I'll be stopping, taking notes, between blush and eyeshadow. So it takes me extra long because I am working through and processing these ideas and taking notes. And so making sure that I give myself a full hour to get ready, knowing that this is my creative space. I remember hearing Sarah Blakely, the creator of Spanx, and she was telling her story about how she came up with the name Spanx. And she said she always got ideas in the car. So she would just go out and just drive for no reason except to think and have ideas come to her. And I don't remember the full story, but she went out driving and the name Spanx with an X just came to her. Now, I can't remember if she saw something on a license plate that sparked the idea or it just popped into her head. But it was while she was out for an intentional thinking drive, I like to call it, that she thought of the name for Spanx, which is a huge, huge company now. So what I want to ask you is, when do ideas come to you? Have you taken the time to really stop and think about when these ideas come to you? And if you have, or when you do, because that's what I'm going to have you do, then is the hard part. Making the time to be in these creative spaces for yourself. So can you identify those few times and then make sure to build it into your calendar so that you can take yourself to this creative space? So extra long showers, taking a drive, getting to bed earlier because you'll lay in bed and you'll be thinking about things, sitting out in nature, whatever it is that helps you spark the creativity inside you. I want you to dedicate some time to it. The second thing you can do to help spark creativity is listen to your biggest idols. Every time I drive up to the lake, I turn on a podcast. I'm already in my car, so right there I'm in one of my creative spaces. And most of the time I don't have another adult to talk to. I've got the kids plugged in the back seat. And so I'm already in this space where I have room and space to think. But I know that if I put on a book or a podcast about business or something I'm interested in, then it's going to turn into more thoughts and ideas. And it's going to do that more than if I just turn on music, because if you know me, then you know that I will be singing along to that song, whether I know the words or not. I'll just make up the words if I need to, but I am a singer. So when I'm singing, I can't sing at the same time and think of new ideas. So that's why a book or a podcast has to go on for me to get into this creative space. So I'm driving up to the lake house on a super hot, sunny day. My sunglasses are on, and I start this book called Steal Like an Artist by Austin Kleon. I've talked about it before. And as the narrator is reading the words, my mind just starts taking what he's saying and starts expanding on it. And I start putting my own spin on it as I think about the next layers to what he's describing. Or he states a thought and then I pause it And I just continue on like, oh, yes, okay, and here's my thoughts on that. And I just let it go, and I voice memo on my notepad what I'm thinking. And then I get to the end of that and I unpause the book and I listen more, and that sparks even a different thought and idea. And so I pause the book. Before you know it, I'm just keep pausing the book and have new ideas and expansions of what I want to say and talk about it. And before you know it, I've got this episode, almost all of the content for this episode. If you don't know the book, the entire premise of the book is to talk about how there's no original ideas, and everything that we do and create is stolen from one thing and turned into another. And the greatest of the greats steal the pieces that they love the most, and then they use them and transform them into their own masterpiece. And I find this as a very useful tool to create as well. So if you're feeling like you're just stealing other people's things to make your own, I want you to go read the book, because it will make you feel better about it, and it will give you some ideas on how to do it in a way where it's okay. You're not just taking someone's thing and saying the same thing, but you're turning it into your own new thing. So who are the people that you listen to that challenge you to think differently, or to expand your thinking, or that say things that get your wheels turning and thinking about new things? So if you're on YouTube, tell me in the comments. I would love to know who right now is inspiring you, and who you're listening to. Who do you know you can turn on and get the wheels turning? And maybe you aren't listening. Maybe it's actually a book that you are sitting down and physically reading. Maybe it's a blog post you're reading. So again, if you're like me and this really gets the creativity flowing, then make some time and space to listen to some of your greatest mentors. Now, hint, hint, I have a podcast episode every Wednesday that comes out. So maybe you're inspired by some of the things that I say and you put me on your calendar to listen to every Wednesday. My only warning on this is don't get lost in consumption. So use listening to audiobooks or podcasts, use it to spark creativity, and then let yourself create from it. And make sure that taking action from the consumption actually happens. And then the third thing to help inspire creativity, kind of to feed off that, is to take action, even when you don't feel inspired. And that's the key here. So when you are feeling like you don't have a creative bone in your body, you just don't know what to do, that can still be a time that will turn into inspired creativity. So sometimes action just causes new inspiration. The other day I was feeling completely uninspired to cook dinner. I really dislike cooking. I don't know much about it. It takes a while. It's never that good when I'm doing it, probably because I don't practice it very much. And then I've just made a mess that I have to clean up. So it's not one of my favorite things to do. This is what I love doing, not cooking. But we needed to eat. Grandpa was gone, who cooks a lot for us. My husband was out of town. And so I just felt super uninspired, but I just started pulling stuff out of the fridge, mostly to see what we had as leftovers, because I'm lazy like that. But I ended up kind of piecing together some different leftovers. I made some new vegetables because no one likes to eat leftover vegetables. And I shockingly put together a really good meal from just different things that were in the fridge. Now, this might not be the best example for you, but the point is that once I started, I got more into it and I started getting more creative on what I could piece together. I got more inspired to actually put the effort into it, even though I was like, oh my gosh, I have to come up with a dinner idea or dinner, right? So I used a lot of old things, a lot of new things. It turned out edible. It was good. The kids ate it. I ate it. We survived, right? But this happens with my work stuff all the time. I have to record a new podcast episode. I sit down, I'm feeling so uninspired. And I try to use my first two strategies first. So this doesn't happen super often because, to be honest, with those first two strategies, like right now, I already have 10 podcast ideas written down, but sometimes I have the idea written down and then I have to go elaborate on it. It's like, okay, I have to record this podcast. I don't feel like I'm in that space to create to say all of the things. What am I going to say? But I sit down and I just start writing. And before I know it, I have a podcast written to record. And I learned this strategy from the amazing Melia Forzak, who's a ghostwriter, when we were working on writing the outline of my book together. And she said, when you have a goal, maybe it's 20,000 words, and you have a deadline to write, let's say it's 6 months, and you plan to write 5 days a week, so that's 150 days to write, which means you only need to write about 133 words a day out of those 5 days over the next 6 months to reach your goal of 20,000. So regardless of if you're inspired or not, you sit down and you write. You write those 133 words minimally, which is not very much. And then she shared that when she does this, she's actually really pleasantly surprised that when she goes back to read the content, it's actually pretty good. And she really doesn't have to scratch the content that she wrote when she sat down uninspired to write. So if you get writer's block, maybe you're writing a blog, maybe you have to prep notes for a podcast episode or a live, whatever you're doing, just start writing. You might think that, it will be flat and it will be uninspired and it won't be good, but I bet you it'll actually be better than you think it will be. So we can get really caught up in this idea of what it needs to look like or feel like that we often just don't act. And we're waiting for that perfect moment where inspiration strikes like lightning. But that's not always the case. Sometimes we need to do a little instigation to get it to come about. I'm creating the Build a Profitable course, and I've got, time dedicated each week to take action so that I can move towards getting that released for those out there that are interested in this topic. And whether I'm inspired or not, I have time dedicated in my week to work on it. And so I just sit down and I work on a section of it. And often I get in this zone and then I end up working longer on it and maybe even going into some of the next lessons that I wasn't planning on doing because the just taking action kind of started getting that creativity flowing. And I've even gone past the time that I've written down as long as there's nothing pressing that I have to do after. And so I've gone over in my time frame and I've gotten more done than I thought I would just because I sat down when I was feeling, uninspired and I just took the action. So again, set that goal, figure out what you need to do each week to reach that goal, and then just act on it. Just put one foot in front of the other and take that next step and then that next step and then that next step. That's something my dad always said. If you don't know what to do, you just do the next thing and the next thing and then the next thing. And so for me, that is just taking action on something, even if it's ugly action and it gets scratched later because it was no good. That happens at times too, but at least I got clarity that that wasn't the right direction that I needed to go, right? So be decisive and take that next action. That's what I talked about in a couple episodes or an episode a couple weeks ago. If you missed it, go back and watch it or listen to it. I talked about the cost of being indecisive and that cost that it has on your business and how to be more decisive, how to take quicker action. So if you need help with that, being more decisive and taking quicker and better action, go listen to that episode. Okay, that's it for me. You now have my 3 secrets to inspiring creativity that results in endless amounts of great content. Huge thank you to everyone who is listening and allowing me to do what I do. It really lights me up inside to serve you in this way. And so I just want to thank you for showing up, trusting me to guide you on your path. If you're not on my email list yet, get on there. Of course, if you downloaded that freebie, 50 Things to Automate or Hire Out in Your Business, you'll be on my email list. I don't spam, I promise. I give you updates or tips, things I don't talk about on my social media, and then I share this weekly episode with you so you have it right in your inbox to click on and jump to. And if you reply back to emails answering my questions or with questions, I actually respond. So that's pretty cool. It's the best place for you to connect with me. So just go to thekrissychin.com and it will be pretty close to the top where you can just even put your name on the email list if you want to do that. So all right, until next week, get out there and do something that inspires you. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you got some value out of this episode, I would love some support. And the best way to do that, so I can keep showering you with loads of actionable tips, is to hit that subscribe button. Leave a review or a comment if you're on YouTube, and share this podcast with a friend. And when you share it with a friend on social, please tag me so I can reshare your share in my stories. It's been an absolute pleasure hanging out. I appreciate the heck out of you for showing up. And now it's time for you to take imperfect action so you can work less and enjoy and earn a whole lot more.